Well, here we are, live once again, and this will be our last Bogus Hangout for this year of 2015. We, of course, have already planned one for January, which is incredibly organised for us. And I'm not sure that we've still really got over the shock of that. But here we are again, Christmas, and we've got a great panel because I've been trying to get Pierre on a Hangout since since I was doing the Susie ones over sort of 18 months ago. Because Pierre is another one of those friends from the old days in Creator Site who has gone on to do a lot of interesting things, but particularly he has put a lot of attention into mobile, and there are a few people I think of before Pierre when I think about mobile search and consistency of being involved in that. So it's nice to finally get him on a chat and catch up a bit. Hey, Pierre.
Hi, Ammon. Thanks for having me, and it's great to finally join. We've managed to make it work. Squeeze it in 2015. Yeah, I mean, happy to talk about mobile, about other topics, and I'll leave it to you and see what you'd like to talk about.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't seen these before, believe me, the conversation can go anywhere. We might end up completely missing that and discussing penguins fishing. It's entirely possible. Steve, good to have you with us again. And
hello.
You're looking good.
Well, thank you. It's the new filter on the camera. It does wonders.
Well, every time I see you, something seems to have changed around the house, which changes the lighting. So, your backgrounds are almost as changeable as mine. It's just yours take a lot more work to change.
I'm not. I got thrown out of the house. I'm not in the house anymore. I'm out in the barn now. That's why the ceiling's not finished. The back wall's not finished.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, Terry doesn't have a barn, or he'd probably get thrown out as well. How you doing, Terry? Oh, he's there.
I'll unmute here, and then you'll be able to hear what I said. I said, I'm doing good, working hard, looking forward to time off at Christmas. Same old.
Yeah. So that's a good point, actually. How much time do you take off, Terry? Do you just sort of the day before and a couple of days after?
Well, I used to take a week off and go and visit with my parents, but they've moved. There's not enough space anymore.
They didn't tell them where they went.
Yeah. They moved, so I couldn't stay. That's right, Steve. My mother checked into the hospital to make sure.
This is it. Terry, you're grown up now. Stop bringing your laundry. Tony, good to see you. Happy Christmas, sir. And how's things been with you recently? Is he frozen? Yep, he's either frozen or exceptionally deep in thought there. Well, that's how it goes. Kristin, how are you? And where's your camera?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Your tablet?
It's really annoying to have to share a computer with someone who doesn't want to give you their password and they don't care about security patches, and you just want to update all your software. But yeah, but I'm fine other than that, and I'm thrilled to see everyone here. Welcome.
Yeah, indeed. So we have no Bill with us this week because he's in an aeroplane. He's got to, of course, fly up to the North Pole to start his one-day-a-year job. For those who didn't know that Bill had that job. Come on, you all know, now that you think about it, of course Santa is Bill. Who else would it be?
It makes so much sense.
It does.
Except I've never seen him eat cookies. Maybe that's because he saves it for that one day.
Exactly. Exactly. You wouldn't want to eat them any other day, would you? You'd say, I've had enough.
So we have Bill is Santa and Ammon is a saint.
I think he's more of an anti-saint.
The things we learn so quickly.
Yeah, I misspoke there. It should have been anti-saint.
Yeah, exactly. Pure sinner. So let's start with our usual question, but since Bill isn't here, we will go to our other resident old fart other than myself. So, Terry, what have you been up to this past week?
Oh, well, since the last show, I haven't been on for a while because I've been pretty busy. Built 3 WordPress sites and still programming a directory, so I've been pretty busy. Looks like I'm going to meet all my deadlines, though, so that's always a plus.
Yes. And deadlines are always an interesting thing in SEO because, of course, there's some things you can give deadlines. Web design is a lot easier to give deadlines for. Still impossible to get them met because they always depend on something from the client that the client just doesn't seem to want to do, especially things like copy. Yeah, we've got these great pages, but they need some content. When's that coming?
Little something more than Laura Ipsum.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I structure my contracts now so that it says I'm done when the thing is configured and ready to go. They're responsible for images and text. I'll put it in, but I'm not going to write it and not going to make them. So, it's all up to them.
Yeah. But generally, I find so much of SEO, you can't give absolute timelines for so much of it. You can give generalized timelines. If a client is starting with SEO, you can say, look, you should see some sort of results in as little as, the next couple of weeks. You should see a shift, a small fraction of traction. But it'll be tiny signs, it won't be much. And then it rises over the course of 6 months. 6 months to maturity of a campaign where, that traffic should be rising all the way through to 6 months and staying high. But that's about as accurate as you can get, isn't it?
Yeah, I think you can tell them when the work will be completed. That's not, what we're not in control of search engines. All we can do is make it visible. And to me, I can give a really accurate deadline on that. I can't tell them when they're going to start ranking or if they will at all. I assume it's going to rank, but I don't give guarantees. Don't even give the impression. I'm going to do my best, and you're going to see what I did. So, and what I did, you can take it to anybody else and have them, look at it and assess what I did. But,
William Rock says, I want to be number 1 or you're fired. No, William Rock, you're fired. And that is exactly what I do to those kind of clients a lot of the time. I'm not going to take those kind of clients most of the time, simply because it's a terrible, terrible business objective. Where you rank shouldn't determine your business. And if your business is built on, we need to rank number 1, maybe you need to rethink what your business is. What should matter is how many qualified leads and actual conversions you're getting. And where you are in a search page is only there's only a general correlation. There's a correlation in traffic between your position, but there shouldn't be in conversions.
Conversions are on the person who designed the website. If I don't get to design the website, I get targeted traffic to your website. That's all I'm in for, right? Like, you can't expect me to tell you I'm going to do something that I have no control over. Although people expect it. They
I guess
quickly.
I guess that depends on how you define targeted traffic.
Yeah. I have seen good business cases for where you rank, and that business case is always about the fact that if they rank #1 for this particular term, they get more advertising dollars from other people. They can negotiate better discounts from suppliers and manufacturers. That kind of thing. There's a good reason for it. You know, it's actual money in the bank that they're #1 for this because they are negotiating better deals by being there. But even then, it shouldn't be that kind of thing. It shouldn't be the make or break of a business. If your business plan requires you to be #1 on Google, you're an idiot because that's something you can't control.
Hi, wait, I have to turn you off.
Yeah, turn me off, Zara.
There. Hi. Kristin, you're so blue today.
I know. Last year we had gray Ammon. This year we have blue Kristin.
Yeah, it's her false allegiance. She's being a rebel.
If you haven't noticed, we're very corny here.
Horne is good. Yeah. I just agree. I just agree so much about looking to rank #1, and it's usually my very first conversation with people, because often the people that want writing are not the business owners themselves, but the webmasters, quote unquote, who are putting together a site for a business. And they ask the same questions. It's just like, what are you asking these questions for? So it just seems like the very first step is education about what do you really want your website to do and what your goals are for the website.
Yeah.
You know, and I agree. If they're still with, you know, I want to use these keywords and I want to rank #1, we part company right then and there. Because even if I've had a conversation with them and they're still on that path, we're not a team.
I just said I wouldn't guarantee rankings.
There's no guarantee.
I'm not going to be #1. Like,
yeah.
You know, I can't go into something. If I don't think I can rank your site, I'm not going to take it. Because that means I don't know enough about it to be able to rank it or know what to even rank it for.
Yeah, it's not about the competition for me. It's about the business. I've done some of those industries where, you know, they are competitive. I've done the classic 3Ps. I've certainly done various travel sites. I've done financial services. So I am not at all afraid to go into those areas. But you need to go in with something different, or you are stuck immediately with bad decisions. If you don't have a strong USP and the ability to make position 7 work better for you than #1 is working for somebody else, then I don't want to work with your company because you don't have a business. You've got the same business as everybody else and you're just hoping to be in a better position. That is
That's exactly right.
That's rolling a dice. And, you know, if you want to gamble, go to Vegas.
Yeah, but even if they rank, like even if they rank, there's cases where if your price point is not right, it's gonna grow. It's gonna really affect your sales, right? If you're too high, it doesn't matter what position you're in, you're not gonna sell much. Because the reason people are on the internet is to compare prices.
And to get more information, to get that, you know, the stuff. It's not like we didn't know what shops were and where shops were. So people didn't come online to shop.
Right.
They came online to be able to research behind the shops and around the shops and to get other people's opinions and trusted opinions. And of course, internet prices played a big part. We expect better discounts online than offline.
Now people expect to be able to go into the store and get the same prices they can online.
Yeah.
You know, the market is really changing. If you don't understand that people's expectations price-wise have changed even in the last 5 years.
It's been going on longer than that in some industries where the whole industries have been flipped upside down and made entirely unprofitable for brick and mortars.
Yeah. Retail especially. Macy's and places like that they're hurting.
Yeah. And that has been a story on the high street for a few years now. Even Black Friday sales aren't getting the volume that they once did. They're in some ways, you know, they are easier able to promote that they've got a Black Friday sale on to reach more people with advertising for it. But Christmas shopping, they say, is way down, anything up to 80% less for some stores.
Wow, 80%.
Yeah. And there were always certain businesses where Christmas is 50% of their yearly income. In the next 30 days, some sites do half of their business.
Yep.
That's particularly true of places where people love to spend gift vouchers, or for things where a lot of their business is in gift vouchers. Spas and beauty treatments and things like that often do really well at this time of year. This and Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, the sort of hamper of beauty products is a really, really Christmassy kind of gift, and this is when almost all the sales of that happen. They have a bad December, they're having a bad year. It's that simple. So we've certainly seen the high street shops that have got similar kind of cases really get hit hard. It's interesting, the things that the internet has changed in terms of business, but it's also interesting how much the internet has changed the tiny little details of our life, isn't it? Memes are now a part of our life in a way that, you know, they just weren't 20 years ago. You knew less of them. You knew, you know, your own in-crowds special language, but how much stuff was that? Was now we have access to whole different cultures, groups that we are not actually a part of, their memes, their in-jokes, and I think that's huge. Does anyone else feel that there is an increase in shared language having specific meanings?
Yes and no. I think it depends how you look at it. If you take a popular social website like Reddit, for example, you'll probably end up seeing a shared language across geographies in the world. So I would hazard to guess that you will probably be able to find something like that. And if you want to go to your example about memes, yes, you will be able to find examples where a meme on Reddit is known to its users regardless of where they are located. Now, if you want to talk about whether a meme is actually happening within a certain geography, a country or city or whatever it is, because of the internet, I think you'll find examples of that. I don't know if it's going to be more or less than what it used to be. It would just be, you know, people tend to aggregate to their locality just because, you know, that's what they're interested in. You know, they read the same news on the same websites about, you know, they do the same things, you know, on Twitter. They follow their friends in the same country usually. So I think if you look at it in some ways, you'll find that. In some ways, you may not find much of a difference than from 20 years ago.
Yeah, okay, but let me throw out an example. Let me pick a really specific group's meme and see how many of us know it. And audience, join in with this one as well. Leroy Jenkins. How many people have heard of Leroy Jenkins? Now, if you're not a World of Warcraft player, there's no reason you should have. If you didn't play on the American servers, there's really no reason that you should have. But if you've heard that name, if you understand the meme of Leroy Jenkins, then that is what I'm talking about the way it breaks out of the groups that it used to be locked into. It used to be only for that shared experience, whereas now I do think these things travel in waves way beyond their original context. So, anyone not heard of Leroy Jenkins?
I haven't, and I think he also kind of said the same thing from a different phrasing, is that, the shared interest, and this is the thing, I kind of said in different ways that if you do join a community, it tends to be a local community, or if you join a website like Reddit, but all the subreddits, then yes, if you have a shared interest in something, way back when we used to have pen pals, I bet they had their own memes back then. So yeah, yes, I think you're right. Like if you look at just specific kinds of communities or specific kinds of interests or specific websites, you will find the community's memes, regardless of where the geography is.
Okay. Bill's checked in with us. He said the plane is on a maintenance delay, whatever that means. I hope to get the wings back on it, or get us a replacement plane. I'm missing the Jersey. I may have lost the accent. It could be, Bill, and they're going to call you Californian. You're a Valley boy now, or whatever. So they're going to take the mickey out of you. It's that simple. We've already pointed out that you are now Rockstar Bill, and this is the week you were too high to come on the show. So we hope that they do sort it out. Don't worry, Bill. It's probably not essential maintenance. It probably won't affect the safety of the flight very much at all. Barely notice the extra shaking or the wing falling off. Don't worry. It's nice of you to check in. He did say earlier that he was looking forward to catching this later with you, Pierre, because we do always remember our creator site friends. Fab does definitely remember Leroy. At least he's got fried chicken. So I just think that a lot of these memes do translate further than they ever used to. And okay, pick another one. There are lots of people who get Game of Thrones references and even use the memes who've never watched Game of Thrones. Whether it's the winter's coming one, brace yourself. I think that there just is more of this. It's less about identity in memes now and more about joining in sometimes. The internet itself is a kind of identity that takes precedence. This what we call the global village, the global community, that lots of us buy into that we are somehow all connected simply by the internet, and we don't need that much more in common. It's nice to just be able to mix. Hey Fab. Yeah, he's not having to join us at the end of the day on a cell phone.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Kind of
Do you
really
need a new
noticed.
camera too?
Is that a glitter ball?
What? Yeah, it's just like for
awesome.
new joiners. Yeah.
Your camera looks good.
Huh? Yeah, it's
Your camera
finally
looks good.
finally I have internet. That's the explanation. I've been basically on a shitty connection for a while. But,
Yeah. A bit worried about those sirens, but they are not the plane rescue crew. Don't worry, Bill.
no, the office is next to an hospital, so that's kind of daily sound. Like it's not very strange.
That could be advantageous in some circumstances you never want to think about.
Hopefully not.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to think of a particular plus there, but who knows? Who knows? So, I've got a question for everybody, and it's one surprisingly I've never asked before in a Bogus Hangout, and you know, here we are all this time in. What was your first social group online? You know, what was the first group that got you talking rather than just reading? Let's start with Zara.
Whoa, I'm trying to think. Way back. I was in some chat rooms, but I don't even remember where they were. 90s.
Yeah, Steve. FidoNet, eh? IRC.
I was all the way back in FidoNet.
Yeah.
If anybody remembers that, that was the first time they started connecting regional and local BBSs together. It was very cool, very strange.
Yes, and it was the original social network, I'd say, in a large extent. It was kind of the web before the web, wasn't it?
And AOL ruined it.
Like that's news.
Just one of many, Steve. Just one of many.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. The only company that's killed more things than that is probably Yahoo.
Yep.
Yahoo used to have this wonderful thing of, you know, spotting something that was doing well and buying it, but the Yahoo culture would then instantly kill it. And thing after thing, they did that too. You know, anyone remember web rings?
Yeah.
Yeah, web rings were huge. So Yahoo thought, these are brilliant. Look how successful these are. We'll buy them.
Google killed them. Nah, Google killed them.
No, seriously. I was involved heavily with web rings, and
So
Yahoo bought them and took away the ability to have custom graphics.
well, yeah, but the big thing that really killed them, though, was when Google decided they were a linking scheme.
Yeah.
And that finished, I mean, because they effectively replaced exactly what Google did. Because you could click the button that said, take me to a random website, and stay within your topic, and go to completely new websites. It was great. And then the wonderful guys started saying, oh, you can't have that on your website because, you know, bad linking scheme.
Actually, Google never said you couldn't have it. The problem was that spammers had been abusing web rings if they weren't well moderated and well controlled. If anyone could opt in, of course.
Well, spammers, you know, ruin everything. But that doesn't change the fact that they were still.
But that doesn't change the fact if you had a good web ring, it did well. It did well under Google. But what killed it was literally in the week that Yahoo bought it, and those graphics disappeared. Half of the sites involved, and there were millions of them, dropped out because suddenly their page broke. Their graphics that they'd spent a long time perfecting to get that web ring looking really nice was gone. It killed all of their investment, and Yahoo just didn't work this out. And it was incredible to me that they would do that. You know, somebody's invested a lot of time in their interest. The last thing you do is take that away and then expect them to be grateful.
I'm just looking to see. I've got a snapshot of a real old website that we had, one of the first websites we put up, and it might still have the code for the web rigs in it.
There are still web ring sites out there. There are some still doing well. Let me just give a quick shout out to a few people in the audience. Obviously, we've got William Rock. Happy holidays, William. Bill is still checking in. Hopefully, he's getting in the air soon. Peter Hatherley in New Zealand has sent Christmas greetings to everyone. William Rock, SEO Guy forums. Oh, I remember those. Yeah. Webmaster World, and back when it was Search Engine World, and back before that when Jim World's forums were around, the Get High forums and SEO forum.
Virtual.
And Market Position Talk before that. And before that, the iSearch discussion list, and before that, IRC and BBS. But of course, it wasn't called SEO. back when we get to that part, it was called web promotion. It was a part of what we looked at, and we looked at everything from banners and web rings and email, and all of these different ways of promoting a site holistically, and you tried to find the mix for you. And I think that gave us an advantage in a way. I think a lot of people coming in, say, between 2003 and 2011, there was so much pressure. Oh, SEO is the one that works. That they were kind of forced into that channel and not to experiment much. It wasn't until social media came in that we started to get 2 channels again. But even then, I don't think there's enough breaking out from mainstream. They're always looking for the big platform, the Google, the LinkedIn, the Twitter, instead of looking at all of the little baskets that can all add up. I think that's a shame. I think that makes it harder for them.
I think they're all doing those things already. And in my case, it usually means I'm bored with this place. I now have it mostly automated. I can move on to something else. Let's go. That's what I think it is. Personally. That's why I don't think any of these things will last, because everything, in my opinion, ends up like MySpace.
Yeah, the new thing, we're always looking for the new thing, aren't we? And the new thing comes along and everyone sort of abandons the old thing. But the new thing has to be good enough to do that. I think a few people thought Blab was going to kill Hangouts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't think we're anywhere close to that.
On those things, Ammon, though, because if you're an early adopter, you automatically have an edge over everyone else.
Yeah.
And that's what those things seem to be predicated on as well, which is why few of them really last.
So
what was the last one that really hit was probably Pinterest.
Yes, Pinterest has certainly been doing quite well, and it's got its own crowd, and it's different. For the kids, Pinterest isn't the major one though. I find Pinterest is really good for the mature moms. Really are a strong demographic of Pinterest.
Yeah, but that comes from where the site started as a wedding site, basically. Right?
Yeah.
So these things, they evolve, right? Things on the internet are not made, they evolve. And when you've been around long enough, I think that's the biggest advantage that myself and you and Steve have, is we've seen so many of these things, we know which ones to jump on and which ones we can kind of let go, I mean, I did not think Facebook was going to last, to be honest. Why I didn't.
I thought it was going to last. I didn't think I was going to ever have a need for it or a use for it. To be honest, I still don't.
I don't do relatives and friends on the internet.
I thought you said that about the
I don't talk to my friends on the internet. Right?
How many of you actually use it?
I do. I have a couple of private groups there, and yeah, it's nice to see what my brother's up to, and
I like seeing Steve's posts.
What, Kristin? I didn't hear that.
Oh, I said I like seeing Steve's posts about the farm.
Yeah, I keep a little busy on there.
There you go. Now you know who your audience is. It's surprising, actually, how much some of the things, away from SEO and away from web design are interests that do still capture people's attention. It shows to an extent, I think, how much marketers talk too much and, sometimes we don't want to hear any more marketing stuff. Craig Burton, who's been on a few times, started posting pictures of strawberries, and it got to be massive. That strawberries collection took on a life of its own, and it's one of the most successful stuff.
Collected pictures of strawberries. I've heard it all now, I mean, really.
Look it up, Terry. It is phenomenally successful.
It is.
How you'd ever monetize it, I do not know. Obviously, you've got to do, your clothing and your branded gear. I think, maybe he needs to take a leaf out of, the Kiwi Miracle hair products and, do a whole line of products for strawberry blondes.
A friend of mine did the same with the tattoos, like pictures of tattoos, and is particularly successful. Just as it has just been an experiment. I don't think he's even monetizing that at this point, but it's just how people that are into tattoos do kind of like to watch pictures and share, and it's basically a Pinterest posted on a site about tattoos. And to be honest, when I first looked at it, because this guy he's not the real tattoo guy. He's probably wearing a suit during the day and stuff like that. So when I looked at it, I was like, seriously, any better idea? But it is actually there's some type of kind of content and things that work well in that way, and that's where I think all the stuff, in the same way Instagram, recently, I think because of Facebook as well, audience, on some demographics they're doing their job. Obviously, I'm not there to look at girls when they have the coffee, but on some demographic they're really doing the job.
Yeah. An old friend of ours, Rude Hine from Create Site, was doing very well, sharing pictures of coffee every day. Every day he'd post a morning picture of a cup of coffee with a little quote about coffee, and that was doing surprisingly well. It's amazing the small things that sometimes bring us together. And it's sometimes frustrating that, the things you don't put any time and thought into are the ones that really resonate with people, and the things you do are the things that get, 20 engagements. Great quality.
It's an indication that you're trying too hard.
Yeah. But it's sometimes, not about the mass. It's sometimes about who Rolls-Royce aren't interested in selling one to everyone. That's not what they do. And the same with Ferrari and Lamborghini. If everyone had one, in fact, it would kill what it is. Sometimes the exclusivity, the talking to a very specific group is, of course, where the market is. Of course, I remember when people thought mobile was going to be like that. Oh, yeah, it's a very niche crowd, the people who can't be without internet. Yeah, there'll never be more than about 1% of those. What is mobile size now, Pierre?
It's bigger than desktop. I mean, one of my favorite quotes from a few months ago said, he's a VC in the Valley, he said, saying mobile internet is like saying color TV. It was Ben Evans. It's like you just don't talk about color TVs and black and white TVs anymore. And it's true. I mean, when I was at Google, we used to say something, there is no mobile internet, there is no desktop internet or tablet internet, there's just one internet that happens to be accessed from different devices. And if you just ignore mobile, it's just not going to work. Already way too late, even a few years ago.
I think this is often where a lot of the misunderstanding comes in. I mean, people kind of think of it as an alternative, even though the fact, how many of us have a smartphone? How many of us have a desktop? How many of us have a laptop? How many of us have a console that's capable of going online? We use multiple devices, and we use different ones for different tasks and at different times. We've got different needs for them. And yet, whenever you look at the statistics, they seem to be imagining that we choose one or the other, that, they're different audiences instead of the same audience.
Yes, and that kind of thinking is actually wrong. It's a very Western way of thinking about what happened. because we had cable line, wired internet that goes into the house. When you look at the worldwide, when you look at places like India, Indonesia, and Africa, they skipped the step of going through DSL and cable. They went straight through to mobile. In many respects, if you want to know what the mobile commerce looks like, look at what's happening in Kenya and South Africa and in Malaysia and Indonesia. That's where you need to look at. There's a lot of innovation happening there, but unfortunately, many of us in Western countries that went through the same process that I just said, wired internet and then mobile, kind of missed the boat on that. It's a bit of a shame, to be honest.
Another one that's fascinating to me is some of the countries where a lot of the commerce is through internet cafes.
Yeah, and the other one that people miss out a lot on, and it's doing its comeback in the most subtle way now in the West, is SMS. It's short form messaging in general, not just SMS as in through your mobile carrier. And messaging more and more is becoming a lot like, it's notifications. These short form messages are coming back, and they're coming back on your device. And it's just fascinating to see how they've been used for commerce, in places that skipped the wired internet, but now we're actually using them for marketing and to reach people in different ways, and they're making a comeback. I think they're going to be one of the biggest things in 2016.
Yeah, and I think the big thing we're waiting for, 4G is getting close. We are getting to the point where mobile internet has a speed that's starting to rival most people's home internet. And I think when we get to 5 or 6G formats, whatever those will be, and it really is starting to get to be a very similar speed. So exactly that. We won't have the worry about different forms of internet anymore. They will just be internet.
So the engineer in me is a bit pushed a bit. It's not actually about speed that you're worried about. What happened in 2G and 3G is actually the latency, and that's what kills the experience more than the bandwidth. The irony is that in 3G is that once you actually got a connection, the bandwidth was not that bad. 4G really fixed the latency issue, and we're lucky in the UK. We have 4G coverage pretty much everywhere. My phone doesn't even connect on 2G. It just never does. The lowest it will go is 3G, and we're in a very, very lucky state. And it's interesting to see what can we learn now, just as consumers. We're people that think about this topic quite a bit. Observe our behavior, observe the behavior of people around us, and say, okay, in a few years' time when everybody has 3G and 4G, what would we be able to do worldwide? And that would be an interesting question to answer.
Yeah. And you would think that, the UK has this big advantage. We're quite a small country, highly developed infrastructure. It's what makes a lot of commerce work very well. Is we've got great ability to ship stuff all over the place, but we're quite a small country, so a mast covers an awful lot of users. We really don't have much between cities. The UK is city, 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 city with a little green strip that still gets broadband fine between them.
It depends how you look at it, but yes, at the end of the day, we're an island, and there's only so much land mass that you need to cover with masts before you cover the whole lot with enough bandwidth to cover all the usage in that area.
Yeah. But then you look at the US and, say somewhere like San Diego, even though you've got your highly developed cities, the landscape is such, with the valleys and things blocking it, that it's amazing how spotty, even there, coverage can be. Even around LA, with the valleys and things, there are still blank areas of coverage.
It's the same. It's the same here. It's we only have Nike a mile away and Intel a mile away, but where I am, it's 3G only. There's no 4G. If I walk 2 blocks away, I have 4G. But right where I am, there is no coverage. So it's very spotty.
If I go a mile from my house, I don't even have cell phone connection, let alone a G of it.
Yeah, I've seen that happen in the US. You barely leave the city and suddenly you're off. The one thing I would say is that although we're being very positive about UK coverage, actually we get really bad coverage areas, especially in areas that are like conservation areas in the middle of the city. Like if anybody goes to Wimbledon, like tennis, Wimbledon Village itself is a very historic city that like coverage there is virtually non-existent. I mean, yes, you can barely get a signal, and it's always 2G if your phone supports it these days, or if your network provider supports it. Otherwise, it's nothing. It's like hardly there.
Oh, that's just England for you, though.
Exactly.
It's a very small country. You should be able to tarmac the whole thing for about the cost of putting one highway up in the States, and our rail network, which ought to be amazing, very, very mixed, very poor compared to Europe, which has so much more to cover. I love the way Terry's got frozen there in mid-laugh. I mean, it's funny how much sometimes, quite developed areas lag behind. Steve, 3G to Steve means his tractor's going too fast.
Pretty much. This is one of the ongoing issues where we live is, I mean, it's so bad out here, even the schools barely have internet connections. And we're in the United States. It's amazing how the monopoly coverage that the broadband providers have been given has allowed them to segment out profitable versus non-profitable areas versus actually providing the service they got the monopoly to provide.
In Canada, you see towers along the highways. So you can, if you're on a road somewhere, you can probably get a signal.
To give you an idea, I actually priced out having a 10 meg fiber connection brought out here to the farm, and they wanted $5,000 a month with a 3-year contract.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's paying mileage on that, right, Steve?
Well, I was going to pay for all the new infrastructure that they were going to resell to everybody else.
Yeah.
I'd expect a T1 line of my own for that, regardless of where.
A T1 line's going to run me about $500 a month minimum.
Huh.
If they can bring it out, because they don't think that the equipment can support it.
Just seems a ludicrous price for the coverage. But that's part of free economies, isn't it? It's that companies focus on where they're going to make the most money, where's the big bang for the buck, and if you're second tier, so okay, you'll get that, and if you're third tier, fourth tier, good luck.
This is part of the reason the FTC is changing it. I think it's in 2017. The definition of broadband is going from 5 meg to 25 meg.
Yeah. So
now they're going to have to build out the infrastructure to places like where I'm at, and the schools out here, and otherwise it's just not going to happen.
Welcome to the 20th century.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It's the 21st century, actually.
I'm
Not everyone was that advanced. Just kidding.
Increasingly, internet is one of the essential commodities, isn't it? We need water, we need electricity, and we need internet these days. We need that connectivity.
For business, it's more than essential.
Yes.
Well, and that's what's funny is, like the local municipalities, they're wondering why they can't get new businesses in here, but then when somebody actually tries to do something, they're like, oh, no, we don't want you doing that because you'll ruin, the way our little small town culture. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Then
I think there's always people always want the old traditional businesses, look, there's a reason that they're old, traditional, and there's a reason that, you know, they're dying and not opening up. You know, there's a reason they're not clamoring at your door to open up. It's because they don't want to be there. If you're trying to attract certain types of businesses, you're chasing the wrong tree in the first place. The businesses that want to open up are looking for opportunities, and all you've got to do is present them with one.
I was in Canada. They basically told Netflix to go take a powder. You know, no way, can't do that here. So we have our own stuff, right? And guess what? People can't really use it the way Netflix does. Like, if you're on cable and someone has Netflix, you know, on the same node, you're not getting what you paid for.
Yeah.
The other guy is, but you're not.
Yeah. How much sharing of lines is going on is it's
That's
been an issue anyway.
Netflix should be on a separate network, and they wanted to do that, but you know, government said, "No, we can't have that." Well, you know, hey, that's the way it should be. At some point, you know, the head will come out of the ass, and that'll be the way they finally see it.
Pull up this. Now, Paula, despite having been experienced with the show, has offered a serious question here. Why anyone would ask us a serious question, I do not know, but here we are. She was Pierre. You were speaking of non-Western countries. We noticed that using Google's new Knowledge Graph search API, you can query the Knowledge Graph and see all relevant entities, people, companies, web pages, etc., globally. Very interesting to see the view beyond the location-bound surfer.
Yes, and also, like, if you look at Google Trends, that has always had that kind of view. One of my favorite examples about thinking outside of your location, it's actually about language, so not quite the same. Like, you know, we're talking about geography and we're talking about language. Is that when you look at, I have the statistic, I'm not going to remember the numbers, and especially this is recorded, I don't want to say the wrong numbers, but when you look in the United States, and when you look at households that have mobile-only internet connections and mobile-only instead of broadband, you know, wired broadband, and you look at which languages they speak, what you find is that sometimes in Spanish-speaking households, especially in the millennials, the number of mobile-only users is actually like something like 40% or so. And when you look at that, you know, nationally in the whole U.S., it's a bit lower. And so when you start thinking, I am in the United States, it's the same country, same everything, but different language. And you know, when you're talking about mobile, and you know, if you're targeting different users with different languages in that same country, and if you don't do mobile right, you're actually losing a large percentage of your customers, and it's just right on your doorstep.
Yes. Sadly, financial services is one of the ones that figured this out quite quickly. Is that a lot of the mobile-only access is lower income minority groups. And particularly in the US, where you know there are certain groups that have financial, they have trouble getting into the same financial strata as, you know, mainstream white Christian. And you know, obviously we can pick our little burbs around any kind of city and spot the ethnic minorities having their own enclaves, and that translates to online. Some of them have been, of course, targeting the subprime lending of all kinds at mobile, because that tends to be a higher percentage of their customers. It's a shame sometimes that the first people to spot something are usually those wanting to exploit people rather than those wanting to help people. Unfortunately, you know, that's capitalism at work for you. Altruism is a whole different format. Alex has sent her apologies for not being able to make it. This real job thing is killing her socialising. Yeah, it does that. I must admit, there's times when the hardest thing on social and internet, business social even, is companies. I've had to go dark at times over the years because I've been with companies who were cautious about me posting on forums and posting too many articles while I was with their company. They just weren't sure that no insider secrets were going to leak out, like they were teaching me anything.
Or were they
There are
afraid
no
of it?
insider secrets. Like, where does this come from? There are no secrets.
Yeah, but some of them, they do worry. Pierre might have a company that has been nervous of letting him speak a bit.
Putting that aside, I actually want to debate the comment that Terry just made, that there are no secrets. Whether that's true or not, knowledge is unevenly distributed. And if you perceive a competitive advantage that you know something that the other person might not, even though it is not a secret, it is actually a reasonable human reaction to say, actually, I don't want you talking about that publicly, or even be perceived to be talking about that something publicly.
A real secret, even if I tell you, Peter, here, you can't do the same thing, because you can see the results, and that's the secret, is the results you got. How you got there is often, right? Even if I told you, you would not be able to repeat it. You could only go to the exact same places as me. They would not have the ability to find new ones. That's why I don't think there are secrets. So I don't worry about sharing most things.
I'm going to side with Pierre here, and I'm going to say how many SEO groups did go private because they were getting fed up of wannabes who didn't know the real truth, just learning the things they were saying and repeating them. Now, these weren't secrets, but other people were using them badly, and I think there is a lot of that to certain companies. Google would not tell you what's in the algorithm, not because they don't want you to know how damn clever they are, but because people would abuse it to put a lot of really bad crap at the top. We've seen this happen when people learned how Alta Vista worked enough to spam it. They spammed it to death. Alta Vista was death by spam. And most of the other engines that died because people did work them out too easily. So you can understand some companies keeping that kind of thing a secret. I think also you can have 5 different companies competing in an area and competing quite successfully, and partly it's that they've worked out their own way of pitching to their own groups of potential targets. And if they actually really learned each other's speeches, even if they didn't take the business, and it's amazing sometimes, you do have that thing, oh, I never talk about the fact I go to this group, but this group is really great. I always get a lead from it. That thing, if it's working, don't tell everyone about it, is a very old SEO adage. Don't share the secret while it works. When it's dying, then you can publish it. And certainly in the black hat groups, that's still very, very true. You keep everything under wraps.
Yeah, unfortunately, there was a while there where there were a lot of people who were making their bones by outing all kinds of things. And it's like, why would you do this? First of all, it's not being abused at this point. And the minute you spout off on a big blog post about how to get, followed links from whatever, a million spammers are going to jump all over it and ruin it.
Yeah. But I think some of them, there were some good guys. There were some bad guys. There were a lot of people just trying to, earn their chops. I think sometimes there were times when you would see something and it was inevitable it was going to be abused, and it was inevitable it was going to be abused badly and impact everybody badly. And I think in those cases there is a case sometimes for outing it, because it kind of forces the engines to take notice.
Yeah, but it wasn't even so much the engines. I remember when, like when Pinterest got hammered by marketers because they figured out they had followed links.
Yeah.
And they brought Pinterest to its knees for a while because, so many people jumped on it, were spamming so hard, even though it absolutely didn't work for the spammers because unless people were following you, nobody saw the pins anyway. But that didn't slow them down even a little bit.
Yeah, but search engines saw them, Steve. That's all that matters.
I think it is the hardest thing for most people to grasp is the scale of the internet and what that really means.
Yeah.
I mean, internet advertising. Those of us who've been around the block, which is, let's face it, most of us. You may only know Pierre as Pierre, but before that he was posting as Extreme, and he's been around for a while.
I still have the domain name. I still have that domain name. It was registered in 1998.
Yeah. Did you start because you were kind of funding yourself through university? Was it a side interest then?
No, I started in school actually before university. Back home, I'm originally from Jordan. That internet thing just arrived in the late 90s, and we had the internet cafes, and that was the cool thing that teenagers did. And to go back a few questions, you asked, what was the first social network? I was actually racking my brain. Was it IRC or was it news groups? And I'm pretty sure it's IRC in an internet cafe somewhere. And the web was just really starting to take off. And I honestly don't know what got me started in it, but I do remember a few times where I actually went to a few websites and did what any geek would do, which is the view source. And that's game over. That was game over for me. I remember where the best practice was to type the HTML tags in capital cases. Did anybody do that in capital letters? Because you had to do that.
Yeah.
And table-based designs. Oh man, good days.
Yeah.
I've just done it because I'm learning coding, and I like to experiment.
Let's face it, I just about remember HTML1 where we didn't have tables. That was HTML2 that brought tables in. So.
Yeah, let's not dig too much into our age groups.
But certainly I was using IRC early on, and I was on chat rooms much of the week. That was my social media back then. It's one reason I love the fact that Hangouts have almost brought that back, but with the added extra.
Yeah, I mean, the need to connect has always been there, right? I mean, I said I used the pen pals example earlier, and you'll always find these examples. We're just doing it at a larger scale with more targeted, more specific interests. So, yeah.
Yeah, but I do think there is more virality between groups, perhaps because of the ease of sharing things and the speed at which things can travel. I just, remember clubs and interests in the 70s and 80s, it stayed within that club and that interest, and, it really didn't travel out. The sports guys were not going to get a chess club reference. Was today, they might. Hey, Kristin, it's nice to see your video on.
Thank you. I finally let my laptop out of timeout. Is that what you're reading? How many here are using the old Hangouts where we have messaging, side chat, and then how many here are using the new one where we don't have that?
There's a new one?
What?
There's a new
Yeah.
G Plus look, and it's unified to everything, including Hangouts. I took one look at the new G Plus. I sort of went through it. Went, where's my circles? Where's this? Where's that? No, not doing this. Back to the old one straight away. I don't need it.
I didn't even know there was a new one.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
Either.
Oh.
Yeah,
But
that's
I tried
not my
using
problem
it.
with Hangouts or G Plus. I want more functionality. I don't want less. I don't need it simplified. I know they're still trying to bring in new people, but they kind of left that a bit late in the game. If you want to bring new people to G Plus now, add something that brings people back. Don't just change the interface. That's not going to do it.
I do love how it functions on my tablet, however. I noticed that today you can, in settings, add to be able to see your circle streams from your side. And yeah, I can have hangouts or events. I'm really, really liking using G Plus on my tablet a lot. And so it's interesting because the tablet functions more as a desktop environment. I don't know, like, why it should function so differently.
It does seem that the decision was mostly mobile first. So you know, I say we all
Thank you so much for coming.
Pierre says he's got to go, so obviously he is feeling guilty about this. It's your fault, Pierre.
I've been accused of so many things. I've been called so many names. I will take this in a heartbeat compared to some other things. So, if this is the worst of my problems, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I like your ragtime. That's what I like you for. I think you got great taste in music.
Okay, I'm glad I shared that one, not some of the other side of the stuff. I've been writing proposals, listening to country music this week.
Country music.
Yeah, big fan of country music.
So how many of these proposals included, you know, standing by your company and
stand by your company?
I thought I was the one who's very tired because it's getting late for me.
Absolute pleasure having you join us. Hopefully, Bill will kill me if I don't remind you. Please come back again sometime when Bill is with us.
Absolutely.
I know he would love to catch up as well.
Absolutely, I would love to do that. Thank you for having me. Happy Christmas, everyone. Happy New Year.
You too, Pierre.
Take care. Bye.
Take care.
All right.
I completely forgot what was
because my friend Ammon Johns suggested that I limit my pub time, and this is definitely my time every week. When I have a deadline to meet, so I'm going to go work on my project. Anyway,
You're only here for Pierre.
Yeah, I love this bogus time. I do. I just love it. Anyway, thank you all.
Thank you, Zara.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Well, it is about that time where we need to wrap up this show and therefore need to wrap up this year of Bogus Hangouts. It's been a great year. And my thanks to everyone who has been a guest. Do that again. Come on. I've got
Happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone.
Right. I think Kristin's got some lag issues there.
Oh no! Why? What happened?
Well, because apparently for you it's still St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. About 9 months of lag there. I want to thank everybody who's been a guest on the Hangout, everyone who's come on and shared time with us, because as Zara says, this is one of our favourite little chat times of the week. We can't promise that it's ever going to be useful, never mind usually, but we have fun. So everyone that's a regular, everyone that's been on, everyone that tunes in regularly, thank you so much. Have a really Merry Christmas, a wonderful New Year, and do join us on the 5th of January. And for us, that's it for this year, and we'll see you soon.